Alright, there's that. And we are good. Let's get her rolling up.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Slice and Dice podcast with Mr. Gurt in Classic Ninja. I am Classic Ninja, and you see Gurt below me. We changed up the frame this week a little bit, just cause.
I did. You're sore.
Changing up the format just a little bit.
Yeah, dude.
As well, we're gonna try and condense what we got to talk about. So we'll keep it simple. So starting up, we just want to follow up from last week, talking about building habits and setting goals. So Garrett, did you follow through with your goals, and tell us what your goals were from last week?
Sticking with the water every morning, right when I get up. Been doing that every day so far. Not the bedtime thing though.
One goal at a time, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how you can build up your goal? Like, you didn't meet the one, should you adjust that goal? Should you keep it the same?
I would say I didn't meet it 100%. I did it, but I didn't do it consistently. But I did make progress towards it. And that's all it is. If you're trying to do stuff, just think about little small steps that equal victories. The snowball effect, you know?
For sure. Yeah, on that note, I try to take your 20 minutes of screen time idea. And usually after I on the computer for a while, it takes me a while to fall asleep anyway, but I wanted to like be intentional and try and like spend that time doing habitual stuff, getting in a routine for before bed.
How'd that work out?
I think I did it 3 out of the 7 nights, so
Almost half.
yeah, I did it the first night. I did it a couple other nights.
Do you notice any sleep better or not really?
I noticed I like went to bed feeling better. Like my attitude and everything was better. Like I just felt more accomplished, and it was great. It was good on the nights that I got it. And if I can direct my day in such a way that I can plan that time and stay disciplined, then I think I will notice positive benefits in the long run. As well, especially like just mindset. Because I noticed at the end of the week, I think my mindset was a little more negative. Like I was a little more hurried and stuff like that. Especially like for me, I'm like, oh, I need to do, like if I'm gonna set a goal, like I want to do it, and if I don't do it, like it gets in my head, and so I was like, dang it, I missed out on my goal. But all I need to do is just take a breath and reset. Like, all right, I did 3 out of 7 this week. For me is adjust the goal, and just move forward. I did 3 out of 7, so I wasn't perfect. So let's set a goal of like 5 out of 7 this week. Just add 2 this week.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Take those small
steps.
steps.
Something major either. Just something small, like you said right there.
Right. And if I didn't do 7 out of 7 last week, I shouldn't set the expectation to do 7 out of 7 this week. I should say, hey, I did 3 out of 7, so let's do 3 out of 7 this week, and see if I can't do 5 out of 7. Just to help get that mentality ready.
Oh yeah.
So this week we're obviously moving on to a new topic. We're gonna be bringing new stuff every week just to get people's minds thinking. And so we talked a little bit yesterday about our topics for today, which are identity and relationships. Now we're not talking about like anything too crazy with identity. This is just something to get your mind thinking. Being reflective. And relationships, we're not talking like dating or anything. We're just talking, how you interact with others and stuff
games.
like that. Right.
What's your video game identity, Mr. Ninja?
Yeah, so for me, identities are multifaceted, and I don't think people always... I think people can respect that once you start talking about it a little bit, but sometimes you'll say, like you'll ask somebody, well, what's your job or what's this, and we start to corner people in like to these boxes, but like for other people, so not starting off with me, but for other people we've got we've got
Sorry, I'm wiping my screen off right now.
You're good. We've got like father, husband, brother, cousin type deals, like that, worker, like whatever their job is. and sometimes we get wrapped up in like one of those when we are a culmination of all of them. But for me, in terms of like I play games, and obviously a lot of people know me for that. So breaking that one down a little bit, you know, even single identities, like if I was to talk about like jobs and stuff like that, you could break it down into more specific tasks. So for gamers, like obviously, I think number one is like I'm competitive. Like I like to have those goals. I like to have that drive. I like to have that interaction with others where it's like, you know, something back and forth. I'm trying to do something. Also playing Atlas where it's maybe not so competitive. I mean, I do love the PvP aspect of Atlas, but I'm kind of like a builder, and everything I do has to have a story. Also, I think my cats are doing something nuts, so I might have to check on them in a second. But so that's me. I mean, you got two things right there: is competitive and story, and so those are really what drives me. And there's other things too. Like sometimes we're gonna talk about some other roles, and sometimes I'm the optimist. Sometimes I'm maybe a little too hardcore. Definitely got a little bit of a rager in me, but I think that just comes from my passion. How about yourself, Garrett? How would you identify yourself when it comes to playing games?
I'll just send it.
You're send it.
I'm the sender. And I'm optimist. I don't really rage during games. Unless something really, really bad happens. But you know, I just like to just dive on into it. Do things, have fun. I guess I get competitive with it too, but not too crazy.
Mm-hmm. Grab my tea bag out of my tea. So we broke down a list of different types that we just came up with. So we've got people who are gamers who are ragers. Well experienced those.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why we're so amused by it, but a lot of people have watched the compilations of people just absolutely losing their shit over video games.
Oh yeah.
Which is quite frankly ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous both that the person has gotten that upset over a video game and like that consumed by a video game, but it's also ridiculous that we laugh at it, but we still do. Like, I don't know, there's probably some psychology behind that, but
I'm guilty of laughing at it.
yeah, I have too. Like, it's just like, I think you laugh at like the humanity in it because it's just like what happened to make you lose it over a video game. But it happens to all of us. Like, I can attest to the fact that I have been a little too upset over a video game at times.
It happens.
And then as I identified, there's the competitive gamer. There's the competitive gamer who, you know, they're striving for that win. They're trying to get their win, and there's even multiple kind of strains within competitive, because competitive can quickly become the rager if they get frustrated, but they can also be an optimist and stuff like that. There's a single player gamer, you know, always looking for a story mode, or maybe they're just, you know, looking
like
to
just
immerse themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the Minecraft players. If they're not playing, you know.
I think Minecraft might be more than just single. They're like creative. They're builders. There might even be a place for like. There's also role playing Minecrafters. There's
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely different types.
You can also be like a single player in the multiplayer game too, where you just kind of do things yourself, even though there's other people playing at the same time.
Right. Some people in Atlas are like that as well. Then you've got the blamer. I've definitely pointed fingers in my League of Legends play, but last night I was actually playing with a person who, as soon as they died twice, and only one other person had a death on her teammate, and they immediately started pointing the fingers and saying, "Oh, you fed mid lane," and it's like, you're the one who's died twice. It's just like, come on now. And that person ended up dying 11 times to a Kiana, and Kiana was 26-2, and just nobody was able to stop the Kiana. We could stop the rest of the team, but not her. That was just insane. You've got hardcore gamer, someone who can be hardcore in different levels. You know, again, this person can devolve into a rager, or if something goes wrong. But you've got the hardcore gamer who takes everything pretty seriously. You know, they're questing, maybe they're the 100% completion kind of people. Maybe they're just all in. Then you got the people who are saying, these video like this game is too hard. Like with Sekiro, a lot of people are like, oh, they need to add a difficulty mode to it, and it's like, well, that takes away from the like that's their brand. Is their games are hard. Like you have to. They're challenging you to master their skills within the game. It's borderline. It's a mechanical puzzle. You have instead of a mind puzzle like you have with like chess or something like that, where it's strategy of the mind. This is strategy of your actual mechanics, like your physical mechanics. So you have to test both your mind and your mechanical skill. And then we've got you listed off the Send It Gamer. So do you want to describe that a little bit more?
Someone that thinks something's a great idea and it's 50-50 chance it's gonna be bad or good.
But they just go for it.
They just go for it because they're like, screw it, let's do it. Let's take a risk.
Is that the Leroy Jenkins of the group?
Leroy Jenkins of the group. That's definitely a good way to say it.
So I've got on notes here. What does it mean to live your best life within these identities? Like, how do you take something from these identities and just kind of apply it to both games and maybe even your everyday life?
Oh man, I mean, that's a very big question. I feel like.
For sure.
I guess it depends what people call living their best life or what they want to do in life. Some people want to grow big business. Some people want to or content with just working a 9 to 5 and getting a family and having a dog and getting married and just kind of just being comfortable with that kind of thing. Some people are not content with that and they want to travel a bunch and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And it doesn't necessarily need to be super deep either, but like just reflecting on how do you apply your if you're a competitive gamer, how do you go to work with that competitive mindset or something like that. I'll give you an example from my life this weekend actually. So I'm a competitive person, but I'm also I don't know how you describe this, but like I also just want to have fun. I'm here to enjoy the game, enjoy aspects of it. And personally, I'm kind of like an efficient person. Like I want to make sure everything's efficient. So this weekend we were taking care of some trees around the house, and we had a company come cut them down. But we had them leave the wood because we want to save some money. And so the efficient person and the competitive person in me was saying, how do I make this process quicker? Because for a while it was my mom and I were standing around while my dad was sawing because we had gathered enough logs for him to saw up. So I'm just like, what do we do? And so what we were doing, we were stacking the logs one by one, and he was sawing them, and he was like, oh, my back hurts, and I was like, oh, I have this great idea. So the builder, the competitive, and the efficiency like within me were all like, let's make something better. And so what I did, I wish I had the pictures there. I do have pictures, just not uploaded yet. But I literally made a Jenga tower of logs. So imagine like a foot in diameter and like 6 to 9 foot long logs. We're picking these up and moving them. We're picking them up and moving them, and we stacked them 3 by 3 and made like this mini Jenga tower out of logs from a tree. And it was probably like 4 foot high. So that's all I could lift. My forearms were getting tired after a while lifting those logs, but it was I made work fun. And so that's how you can take something from, like, in my opinion, from your gaming nature to your real life like applicability. So we've got a comment from the audience. Scrub Kid, welcome. Says, when I play competitive games, I need someone to give me orders. I need a leader or a shot caller, which is basically the same for me in real life. I can relate to that as well, because there are times when I want somebody to take charge. Like I can be the leader, but for instance, like, so in Rocket League, my comms are pretty good, I'd like to think, and I can say, hey, let's get our rotations going. Like I can be that leader, and that can lead into other problems too. And too many people try to take the lead, which I also know very much in real life, on many levels. But it happens in games too. So it happens a ton in League, and that's a place where I need to not be a shot caller, because usually people are better than me at League, so they know they're doing, and I just need somebody to be like, hey, guide me. Like, I'll do the damage and everything just like you need, but like, give me some pings, let me know what's going on. Whereas in like I said, Rocket League, like, I'm making the shot calls. We're about to do a stream captain's raid as well.
You know who's really good at like setting up things to get stuff done in real life?
Who's that?
Guys in the, like ex-military guys, they're really good at being efficient.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
I see
it's
it in my dad and stuff.
it's in their blood, and that's a really good transition to what we're going to talk about next. Is you know, we can talk about military people for a while. So we both were talking this weekend. I'm not quite caught up on SEAL Team, but we both watched SEAL Team. It's an excellent show. Gives you perspective into some of that stuff. So who's your favorite character? Let's talk about your favorite character a little bit.
It started out being Ray in the beginning, like season 1, because he was helping out Jason a lot. And then all of a sudden I started getting fond of Sonny, so now Sonny's my favorite, and I really like him just because he's just energetic and just will do anything, you know, like just jump in and make sure people are okay. And
yeah, Sonny is a great. Both of those characters are really great. I mean, I think all the characters are well developed.
Yeah, they
in
did
that
a really good
show.
job in that show with those characters.
For sure. And on Sonny, I do appreciate how his character. They did a really good job building his Texas like
Persona.
Yeah, and but he does surprise you at sometimes, just like any person can, right? And so like he goes out of his way a lot of times to, you know, sometimes he'll find that emotional connection. At times that really surprise you, and no spoilers.
Like,
we won't give any spoilers, right? But but yeah, there's some times where Sonny will really surprise you.
And I like Ray in the beginning because he struggled. Well, was it season 2? He struggled with that. You know what I'm talking about, with his family and stuff.
Yeah, and there's still some issues with him that aren't quite resolved. I feel like we know what they are, and we know that he's aware of them, but we don't know how he's handling them yet. So his character is really cool too, because this is a little bit of a spoiler, but we can't talk about identity without talking about this. So he clings to his faith a lot, which you'll see in the very beginning of the show. So that's not a spoiler, but as you might expect with military duty, his faith comes under attack sometimes, like what feels like an attack to him, and so he's got to wrestle with some of those issues, and they're pretty monstrous issues, which goes into a point I wanted to talk about. Is we're people, and no person is perfect, like, and that's something Jason, I think on my favorite character, I really appreciate Jason as a character. I appreciate all of them, but I appreciate Jason a lot. But my favorite is definitely Clay. I had some big issues with Clay. Like, Clay was the egotistical guy at first, but he's another one who kind of surprises you with his storyline. And it's those. I like people with those. I like those surprises too. So the way Clay has developed and the way he relates to his team is just phenomenal. He's still got a lot to learn, but I really appreciate his development in the show. But
oh yeah.
I think obviously Jason is pretty much the main character, and his storyline is really that idea that we all have a chink in our armor, and like a sliver, right? And we what was I gonna say? We sometimes fall when we're most needed, but that's like why we have teams, right? And so Jason has a lot of weight on his shoulders, and he's dealing with that over the show, and it starts to wear on him. Even this highly trained, like, excellent military guy, and then there's Mandy too. She's also dealing with the same things, where she's just absolutely ruthless, and then something throws her storyline for a loop.
Mandy's the interrogation lady, right?
Yes. She went from strategist to interrogation lady, and I won't say anything more on that. Nope. Because that's also a major thing. But anyway, so yeah,
so we have, okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, keep going.
No, you're good. She, both storylines, Mandy and Jason, which are interesting for sure, and they show that like we can't expect perfection even from like the highest leaders, and so we need to be able to pick up people when we fall, which this would be a great pitch. If we had, we don't need to be sponsored to pitch this, but like if we had a military, if we had a sponsor or a cause, basically what I'm saying is, if you feel called to donate to the military, I would highly encourage it. Especially like veteran affairs, no matter how broken it is. It's a great resource, and it needs to be drastically improved for our veterans because they deserve better, quite frankly. And the show addresses stuff like that as well. There's just some tragic stuff. The show puts a lot of heavy emotion on you at times, and that's just reality. That's the humanity of the situation. Now back onto identity from that is that SEALs and people like that with high expectations, sometimes they have to chip away at their humanity. And Jason's a perfect example of that because he talks about his role when he's getting introspective a little bit. He starts to talk about his role as husband and father, and how he even has to throw that away at times because he's on the mission. Like he has to literally forget part of who he is in order to successfully complete his missions, and it's just a shame. Again, it's a reality of our, like, this is a TV show, but this happens to people, and on a much more extreme level, because in a TV show they can manage the characters and say, oh, the character's gonna recover, but in real life we have to make these choices to make sure that we remember who we are. Even sometimes we have to compartmentalize what we do. We don't want to take stress from our job home and take it out on our loved ones, but we have to do both. We have to remember what we do at work and what we do at home, and we have to remember we're still the same person at both, but how we apply our skill sets can be different and can be compartmentalized. Like for instance, in a SEAL, I won't talk about the show specifically anymore for risk of spoilers, but for someone who's a Navy SEAL, what they're doing to protect their family and protect their neighbors and protect their brothers. These
are guys going in the missions that no one is trained to do. Like they're sending 5-6 guys into like just no backup in like foreign countries.
Right, and they're trained to put everything into a system, for lack of a better word. They're going to put something in a system so they can run the mission efficiently. But they have to be prepared to, take route B as soon as possible. As soon as the shit hits the fan, they need to be able to be ready to take action. Yeah, adapt, be flexible, and that's a good segue into our relationships talking point, because not only do you have to think about your familial, your friends, and just people around you, like even if they're not your friends, you also need to think about things around you and how they're impacting you, which Navy SEALs are trained to do. They're trained to take awareness of what's going on around them so that they're constantly prepared. I know sniper training for Rangers and Navy SEALs both are extremely intense, but a big focus for them is that awareness. They're stopped. I forget what the acronym is, but there's an acronym. But it's basically like they smell, they listen, they look, and they do that every so often so that they're fully aware of their surroundings. And the training that they do for that is insane. I know there's this game called America's Army, which is actually a simulation for, obviously not full simulation or training for people, but they wanted to test it out as like a simulation. So when I checked interest when I was a high school kid in the Army, they sent me this game to get me more interested in the Army, and it almost worked. But Army is not the life I chose. Definitely respect it. But anyway. Sniper training is just insane. But again, that's relationships with everything around you. So, it wasn't necessarily this specific, but if you're a soldier, obviously, you want to respect the relationship between you and your tools. We'll call them tools because I believe Twitch has been cracking down on some of that stuff lately. But yeah, you and your tools. Your tools are are
They're like
not.
part of you.
They are part of you, but they're what you use, right?
Hmm.
Um, so you need to keep that in mind that they're not like your identity. They're just what you're using to accomplish your goals. And so you need to remember to compartmentalize your job and kind of separate your identities so that they don't overlap when they shouldn't. Because, from a soldier's perspective, they need to be aggressive, aware, and at times lethal. But when they come home, that's the opposite of what they need to be. They need to be, kind of reserved, relaxed, and empathetic. And empathetic is not something you want in a battlefield for sure,
And
because
try not to think
that'll
about what's
compromise.
happened.
For sure. And that's really brutal, which is another thing. Like, no matter who you are, if you're a Navy SEAL, if you're a retail worker, like, find someone to talk to. It doesn't necessarily need to be a therapist, but just find someone to talk to, someone to vent to. There are trained professionals who I would definitely suggest you go talk to, because there's like, for instance, my relationship and Gurt, like, we're friends, and I can talk to Garrett about a lot of stuff. There's some things that we might not necessarily want to talk about because we're on different ends, but that's okay. But uh, Gurt might not know the answers, and the counselor doesn't know all the answers either. But a counselor comes from a different place than Gurt, because Gurt knows me from baseball, from gaming, and so he's going to have that perspective. But a counselor has no perspective of who you are, and so you get to fill them in, and their job is to not take any of that into account and just treat you as a human. So I would suggest, having a good friend to talk to, but also having a neutral party to talk to, because
Yeah.
there's going to be tensions. Even if you're married, there's going to be tensions in
Yeah.
your marriage. There's going to be tensions in your friendships. No matter what stage that you are in your life, and you're always going to want a neutral party to, kind of take yourself out of the situation, because you're never going to be able to put yourself fully in somebody's shoes. But take yourself out of the situation, and just rethink about it.
Which I think is a great point to talk about, to like challenge people to do that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So we're coming up on half an hour here, which we're going to try and cut our podcast short. So I'll issue you a challenge, and we'll go into the Stream Captain's Raid. So our challenge for this week is to reflect on your identity. So the task is write down 3 actions or feelings you think directed your day or impacted others, and then report back to us with those things. And you can do that throughout the week. You can do it every day. Whatever's right for you. Just take that one step. So even if it's only writing down one action, like today I cooked breakfast. And that's part of your identity, right? Like, so I cooked breakfast, and it's part of the part of me that wants to take care of myself, because I know breakfast is a really important part. So that is literally part of my identity. Just that small task. It can be as simple as that.
Yeah. When you do something small like that, you feel better, and if you feel better and happy about it, then you're gonna be hopefully start the day happy, and people around you will notice that.
For sure. And with that, let's finish up the stream with a raid.
Hopefully we can win.
Where'd I go? I am all over on the wrong.
Here we go. Oh, they're buffing them.
Oh yeah, they have a.
Our archers are doing some work though.
Yeah, it's gonna be a close one.
Oh, I think we got it.
As long as that last soldier lives, we're good. Oh, we're golden.
Yeah.
Scrub Kid killed the Death Knight.
Hey.
Hey, we did it! With help from Scrub Kid. 2 kills
Yeah,
for Scrub Kid, 1 for Gurt. That away.
We got gold chest, didn't we?
Oh. Can I choose both of you? I want to do random winners. How do I do that? Current rewards. Scrub Kid got it because he had the 2 kills. Awesome. Gary, I believe you should still get a reward. Well, you get the rewards for winning, so that's
Yeah,
good.
I got some coins, some juice.
That was a pretty good battle. What is this chest thing? I wonder if there's... I want to click on it. Oh. So there are enemies for this chest. In this question, I don't know what that is. But yeah, sweet. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks, Gurt, for being here again.
Yeah.
And
next week we'll be talking about some other stuff, guys. So stay tuned.
For sure. Feel free to drop any suggestions in replies to our Twitter feed, in replies to the YouTube. This will be uploaded on YouTube. Feel free to reach out to us on Twitch at any time with any topics you want to talk about. And we'll be here 6:15-ish, hopefully on the dot next week. No technical difficulties, but we'll see you next week for sure.